Push Pass Nation, come on in, check in, post a message, let us know that you are here. Welcome back to our Push Past 10 platform. If this is your first time joining us, I am Simone Matthew, and as you know, we are your number one source for promoting and celebrating who we are as Dominicans and as Caribbean people. And you know, at the heart of what we do is our inspirational guests who stop by each and every week to tell us all about their journeys to success, to share their challenges, and to provide us with some inspiration. And we are very happy today because one of the leading voices, I like to call him the voice of health and wellness in Dominica, he has made some time to be here with us today. This is a man who is incredibly busy. As a matter of fact, he spent the entire day traversing all through Dominica to get his job done, but he's made some time to be here with us this evening to share his journey of inspiration and to talk about a topic that I think we need so much more exposure on, and that's the topic of mental health. So we're very happy to have Mr. Carlton Lanquedoc with us this evening as he unmutes his mic and we say good evening, Carlton, and with all your responsibilities and everything that you do, I want to personally thank you for making some time to be here with us this evening. How are you?
Good evening to you, Simon. Good evening to your many listeners at this time. I am awesome. I thought I would have been tired, but I seem to be the Energizer Bunny. I still have I still have quite a bit of energy that I can spare for at least an hour and a half.
Yes, yes, and we'll talk about why you have so much energy because you're running like I am, so we tend to have a lot of energy. But again, I want to thank everyone who's joining us via Facebook Live as well as via YouTube Live. You know, we get about almost 20,000 visitors to our page on Facebook. So we also like to make sure that we bring on inspirational guests and just talk about important topics that are of interest to us. So without any further ado, Carlton, I want you to go ahead. You know, we feel like we know you because you're on the radio every week, and we so appreciate the information that you share with us. But just tell us, who is Carlton Lanquedoc?
Well, Carlton Lando is a humble guy, very down to earth, very approachable, someone who understands where he came from, someone who identifies with his history from very humble beginnings. Some time ago, I was actually telling my daughter what it was like growing up as a boy with no flushing toilet and the outside kitchen, and even when there were no pipe-borne water, going to the river to the Belfast River to get water and to water all the plants in the yard and doing all these chores before getting ready for school. And this is basically my genesis. I thank God for it. Actually, this week I was saying to a colleague of mine that having born in the early 70s, I don't regret it at all because I think the history, the discipline, and the culture was so much richer than as it is now. So this is who I am. I grew up in the community of Jimit, which at the time wasn't as big as it is. It was quite a hamlet from the parish of St. Paul's, and spent a lot of time in St. Joseph as well, because my father is from St. Joseph, and I would spend almost every holiday in St. Joseph with my grandmother. But generally, I came from the Mahu Jimit area. I went to school in St. Joseph SD, that is the Seventh Day Adventist Primary School, and then subsequently went on to the St. Joseph Secondary School. At the time, it was called St. Joseph Secondary School, now the ITSS Secondary School. So again, I seem to have a strong foundation in the St. Joseph, Maho, West Coast area of Dominica.
Yes, and thank you for that. So we are truly honored to have you here again, the voice of health and wellness in Dominica. So as we get the conversation started, Carlton, just tell us a little bit about your journey to becoming that face and that voice of wellness and health in Dominica. Were you always interested in becoming a pharmacist?
No. I knew nothing about pharmacy. Actually, when I went to sixth form college, I did arts. I did sociology, literature, English, and I actually wanted to be a broadcaster, a journalist, or to get into some career to do with sociology. But some way somehow I always liked communication and always liked media, and would have seen myself in that area along my path. Pharmacy actually found me. It was quite interesting how I got into that profession. In 1997, I became a registered pharmacist, and when I began, it was it was it was nice. But as I got deeper into practice, I realized that um, just serving humanity with that level of trust that they would have given to me made me recognize the importance of the career, and the notion that you are given a prescription and the client expects you to interpret the information in a competent, efficient, and professional manner, expecting you to give them the right information and the right drug at the right dose. That certainly made me realize how vital my role was in the health profession. And for all these years, I must say that it has been very rewarding. It has been a very rewarding career. I was actually recently saying to some friends of mine that the last application I wrote was in 2001. So I have not written an application since that time. And that does not mean that I have not changed jobs. It only means that um, everybody, I've had so many offers that I've never really had to apply
Mm.
in recent time for any job, and it is something that I am grateful for, and it speaks as well in terms of how I sell the profession and how I sell competence.
Yes, certainly, Anna. And I think you do a wonderful job of selling competence and everything else that you do. So we have quite a number of people on the Facebook Live who are joining us. So let us go ahead and make sure that we acknowledge everyone who's here on Facebook with us. And we see we have Glenroy Henry, Glenda Lugay, as well as Miss Elizabeth Thomas out there in Massachusetts. So thank you, everyone, for being here. Don't forget to share the live as we speak to Mr. Carlton Lando. And Carlton, one of the things that we do here is we talk about on our journey to success, our successes and our challenges along the way. So can you tell us some of the challenges? I think you certainly shared some already with regards to your upbringing, but just some of the challenges that you faced along the way and how you were able to overcome them on your path to success.
And that's a very important question that you've raised. I mean, for someone like myself, who is just about 48, I have endured quite a number of challenges, more so personal challenges.
Mhm.
Having lost my brother at a very young age, I had a brother, my only brother actually. He died in 1992 in a traffic accident,
I'm sorry
and
to
it
hear that.
was always shy away from my birthday. I remember that like it was yesterday.
Mhm.
So that was done, and then that was a major challenge for me, particularly seeing my mother in particular having to deal with that, and my other siblings. And then along the way too, I lost a sister
Hmm.
in 2010,
Oh my.
one of my mother's children again, from cancer. That was another blow for me. It was very, very difficult because I had to be big brother. I had to be my mother's only son and first child. And I
Mhm.
also had to be the medical liaison in the family, linking with the oncologists and everybody else that were involved. My sister died at the age of 27. She was quite young. So that was another blow for me. And then in 2012, my father was brutally murdered. And that was another major challenge for me. And I
Mhm.
think that is some of the reasons why I got so passionate about mental health and so forth, which we will talk about
Mhm.
subsequently. But these challenges were very difficult. They they will they really hit you in the core. They hit
Mhm.
you in the core, and then you realize how resilient you are or you
Right.
can be because you realize where does that strength come. I mean, my sister was ill for practically, almost a year battling cancer. So you recognize, okay, the time will come where she will succumb. Um, but the way my brother died and the way my father died, they were both sudden deaths, and they were very challenging for me,
Mhm.
particularly my father's death, because at the time my father and I were not close. And it was no fault of mine per se, but so it was very difficult for me to had realized that he was gone in that manner, and there was no chance of
Right.
sal
Salvation.
that's it,
Hmm.
the
Right. The
fragmentation
relationship.
of the
Mhm.
relationship. So
Mhm.
it was very difficult, but
Yeah.
um, I I I I think my spiritual base. I'm not super religious, but my spiritual base. I tapped into that, and I said that on a previous show that what a friend we have in Jesus was my anthem song, and it's the song that I have always sort of relied on when I have been faced with very difficult, tough times in my life,
Mhm.
and just beckoning and meditating and absorbing the words of that song. It really, really um, strengthens and fortifies and gives me the courage that I have needed. And so those challenges, I mean, for me, in terms of my career, I never really had major career challenges. My
Mhm.
challenges were more personal,
Personally. Right.
that really really hit you and sometimes bring you down to your knees, and you have to find the strength and the fortitude to move on. And so
Right,
those
because
were
that
some
is
of the
what I was
challenges.
going to ask you. I was going to ask you, where did the strength come for you to be able to come these challenges? And was your father's death ever resolved? Did they find and prosecute the person who killed your dad?
Well, my father's death was resolved, and it was resolved quite, in a sense, quickly. The individual who murdered my father was his stepson, and it was someone that he basically was raising, and it was said that the son suffered with bipolar type 1, and he had a manic episode and murdered my father, stabbing him 47 times.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
yes, so that was very barbaric. It was very difficult, but I have a very strong um, uh, bond with my family on both sides, mother side, father side, and we really, really rely on each other a lot, and so that helped me a great deal. But even tapping within my own self as a person, being human, being sensitive, getting into my emotions, because we know that men generally, don't tap into their personal inner core emotion, and we harbor everything inside. But I did not do that. I basically recognized, okay, I had some challenges, and when the need arise that I need to maybe see a counselor or somebody just to kind of get a filter, I did so.
Yes, and I can already see where your passion from mental health comes from. So I'm looking forward to having that conversation with you, especially as it relates to our men. because I think our men, they're taught to bottle things up, to not cry. Boys don't cry, which is completely silly. So I'm looking forward to having that conversation with you. But we have a few people who are joining us, and we're happy they're here on the Facebook Live. And we also want to say, hello to everyone who will see the live once it's over as well. So we have Glenda Luge. Good evening to you. Peter Dover, Jennifer Fidel Johnson. Thank you for being here. Roy Labad, Ziska Sarah is here. We also have a few comments coming in. Caesarine Elwin Augusta says, hi, Carlton Birdie. As you're growing up, I think she meant to say pet name. Long time we haven't seen each other. And then Gail Bruni says, OMG, I think that's when you were talking about all the losses you've suffered. Yanni says, oh, my life has a way of toughening you up. Absolutely. Caesarine says, your mom is a remarkable woman. Glenda Shillingford, blessed evening, Simone, and Mr. Leon Lando. Roslyn is listening. And Elizabeth Thomas says, my sincerest condolences. So happy he has a supportive village around him. So Carlton, let's talk about the importance of family support, because I think our Facebook audience are also raising some important points as well. And everyone, don't forget, share the live. Let everyone know that we are here with Mr. Carlton Lando, Chief Pharmacist at Jolly's Pharmacy in Dominica. So the importance of support.
Well, I mean, one of your viewers commented about my mother. My mother, actually, tomorrow is her birthday.
Tomorrow is my birthday.
Wow.
We have the same birthday.
Wow. Yeah, tomorrow is my mom's birthday. My mother is I mean, everybody would might, many people would say that, but my mother is the strongest person that I know, emotionally, and it is someone that I have learned so much from, someone that is really the epitome of resilience, and toughness. I mean, losing two young children within basically a 10-year gap, and you end up, you have four children, you end up losing two, and so many other things. But realizing that, when you have that type of support, it certainly makes you cannot disappoint the person, because this person is putting so much into you to build you, to develop you. You cannot in no way disappoint them. And that is the type of support that I've had. And we're a very prayerful family. My father's side, they're predominantly Adventists. My mother's side, predominantly evangelicals. And I am sandwiched with, I cannot run away from the presence of God and the upbringing of God, and that type of. So I mean, my father's family, before there is a family crisis, there is a prayer meeting going on right away, so we've always had that. And so the family support is tremendous. I was saying to an aunt of mine that there is no uncle or aunt on either side of my family that I don't talk to and I don't have respect for. So I don't know what it is to not no, to be enemy with a family member, or an aunt and uncle or something like that. We've always had that close tie. So family support has certainly helped me. It is something that even as a father, I continue to foster, in terms of my relationship with my children, my relationship with my wife, and even with my peers. I am generally a positive person. I mean, anybody who knows me, it's very, very, very seldom would someone see me not looking happy.
Yeah, and that is wonderful to know. And I'm happy that you found strength with everything that you have gone through. But I also know that you're also very open about the fact that you suffered from depression at one time. So kind of tell us a little bit about why you think that came about, and just how you went about attending to that mental health condition.
Right. And again, mental health issues has always been stigmatized, and not merely just within the Caribbean basin, but the world by the world by extension. And when in 2006, between 2006 and 2008, I was living away. I was doing quite well. I was saying to a friend of mine, it was actually one of the happiest time of my life, in the sense that if I felt like going to Puerto Rico for the weekend, I could have just gone and relax and shop and so forth. But some way, somehow, um, I used to find myself getting angry very, very fast. And if I get angry, I would be angry for practically many, many hours and could not,
Mhm.
you know,
Shake
control
it.
it. But people would have known me, people who would know me would never see it, because I was never the type of person that was combatful. But if somebody had said something to me, I would sort of internalize it and not verbalize it, but it would sort of just messed up my entire day. And I remember the one day that uh, uh, a lady hit my car while I
Mm.
was leaving away. She hit my car. And when I came out from my car, and I said to her, "But you hit my car." And she looked at me and she said to me, "Well, that's what the bumper is for." And I got so angry with that comment that I collapsed.
Wow.
Yeah. And then when I got up, I realized that, that I had gotten so angry that this happened to me. So I decided to go to the doctor. When I went to the doctor, I don't know, for whatever reason, that this person wasn't my personal doctor. I couldn't get my personal doctor. So I went to this other doctor. And lo and behold, this doctor was very spiritual. She was a very spiritual person. And she started to talk to me um, about, how I grew up and certain things. And I just started to cry. It's like I just broke down. I couldn't stop. And then we continue having a conversation. And then she told me that she thinks that I am going through depression. And then so she told me I should look into it. And then I went to see my personal doctor, and my personal doctor told me the same thing and referred me to see a psychiatrist. And seeing that I was already a medical professional, doing well on a high, generally could say that had everything going for me. I did not accept the diagnosis. I didn't. I
Wow.
did go to see the psychiatrist willingly. I wasn't forced, and it was an amazing psychiatrist. I remember him very well. I think he's in the States now, Dr. Leader. And he confirmed to me that I was suffering with depression. And he asked me if there was depression in the family and so forth. And I said, but having studied depression, having, dispensing medicines on depression all the time, I don't see myself suffering with depression because I am not sad. I am not, spending money while I'm not erratic. I'm not. So I looked at some of the clinical symptoms and signs, and I felt, well, I did not have these things. And so I again did not accept it. So I
Mm.
called a good friend of mine who is a senior medical doctor in Barbados. And I called him and I said to him, listen, I got this diagnosis, and I really don't think that is really true. Get me the best psychiatrist you have in Barbados, and I will go and see the person. So within 2 weeks, so maybe about a week and a half, I flew to Barbados and to see the person, the doctor, and the doctor took about 2 days and then gave me the same diagnosis.
Wow.
So when I got the diagnosis confirmed, um, I accepted it. I accepted it. I was given medication, and I remember, the doctor telling me I might be on medication for life. This
Mm.
one I did not really accept,
Right.
being on medication for life. So what I did, I I really read up a lot. I read a lot. I mean, I took off the medical aspect and just began to read and get myself more familiar with different types. of depression, different ways depression affects people, some of the major causes. I began asking my family whether they ever had depression. And to my surprise, I found out that it is one of the chronic conditions that is very popular in my family.
Interesting.
Yes. So then, again, I recognize well the family history. And so getting to know about it, I began talking to friends about my experience and what I had gone through. And I went to see my doctor I just decided to stick with the doctor in Barbados. So would go to see her every 3 months and so forth. And I must say that it's now um, about 12 years now that I've not been on the medicines.
Oh, good for you. That is
So
so great to
yeah,
hear.
so I have beat it. I
Mhm,
think just really developing better lifestyle practices,
mhm,
identifying my stressors, the
mhm.
things that would often make me stress, being more vocal and not internalizing things that would have affected me. But I must say too, though, that I didn't merely rely solely on medication. I made myself to see a counselor, a psychologist. It cost me a lot of money when I was living away. I was having 2 sessions per week,
Mm,
paying like about $300 per session.
yeah,
But I always say to people, particularly now that I sort of in a not a formal way, but informal way counsel people. I always say that counseling and therapy is so vital.
it is.
It is not easy. It's a tough
Mhm.
thing, but you realize there's so much that you did not know about yourself. You thought you knew about yourself and you did not know. And I remember one day I was in a session and my psychologist says to me, why did your mood change when you said this? And I
Mm,
couldn't and I never realized that psychology was so deep.
mm.
That the psychologist just listens, but they look at everything. They look at your tone. They listen to your
Your
tone,
body
your
language.
body language. Um, if you pause for quite some time before you answer, and
Mhm.
it was just an amazing experience.
Yeah,
As
and
I said,
go ahead.
it wasn't easy. There were
Mhm.
days when I really felt like running off that office, but it is one of the best experience that I ever had in my life, and I think that experience changed my life for the better. It
Yeah,
just changed me
absolutely.
completely.
Yeah, and I want to spend some time talking about coping mechanisms because we have so much going on in the world and we have so many mental health conditions arising out of what is going on in our world today. But before we go there, Carlton, I think it was so interesting that you, as a medical professional yourself, had issues with accepting the diagnosis. So I want us to explore that just a little bit. And I'm just curious as to if one of the reasons that you had difficulty with that was because, there's stigma
Mhm.
about mental health, which is something you touched on before. But I want us to kind of look at, exploring the stigmas, especially in Dominica, as it relates to mental health and in specifically mental health and men. Because, we spend so much time leaning on our strong men in society that I think sometimes we forget that men are human too. They have emotions, and we can already see what happens when you bottle up your emotions. It
Mhm.
may manifest itself as depression, it may manifest itself as anxiety, or you may even have situations where now you're experiencing domestic violence in the home because of unresolved emotional issues. So kind of just tell us about, the stigma that surrounds mental health and how we need to just get past that stigma so everyone can seek the therapy and the counseling that you made reference to.
When you look around in Dominica, Creole is very raw, and so
Yes.
you would hear things like "ifu,"
Hmm.
"ifall,"
Yep.
um, Mr. Mad, and just the way that it would be said, oftentimes with very little empathy, very little empathy. And 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 we grew up whereby these people were outcast. They were either locked up in a room, they were locked up somewhere. You saw them and you immediately crossed the road. Sometimes, and you forgot that they too have emotions. And even from that onset, you recognized the stigma and discrimination that went with it. We've seen slight improvements,
Mhm.
but even with the modernization and development that has occurred in the health system, there is still a lot of miseducation and misinformation as it relates to mental health. I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a psychologist, but from the little that I know and what I've observed, I can tell you that it is not easy. I mean, we still have situations whereby a client, because it happened to me. I remember the first prescription I got, I begged my doctor to put another name, or I begged my doctor to
Did
actually go
you?
and, yeah, to go and get the drug for me. I did not want my name on the computer system. uh,
Yes,
and and that is the type of stigma that is associated with any form of mental illness, because you feel that if somebody does know that you are taking some type of medication to help maybe deal with your neurological transmitters, getting them balanced and so forth, that you would be classified as mad, or you'd be classified as weak. And these are the type of stigmas that sort of imprisons people and make people suffer even more, to the point where their situation festers and takes them in such a deep dark hole. And then you get up next morning and you hear this person was found hanging, or this person drank an insecticide or weedicide, and everybody's saying, "Alas, why didn't this person come and speak to me?" But what if the person had come and speak to you? How would you have responded? Because most of us, we will say, "Oh, you're just worrying, man. You're just stressing out yourself for nothing. Relax. Go pray. Um, go read your Bible. Go smoke a spliff, or go have some sex." And we just brush it off, and we take it like something so simplistic, and so it means that there needs to be more dialogue, there needs to be more advocacy, there needs to be more education, there needs to be more. um, the entire media has to come on board in terms of um, uh, uh, advocating for mental health awareness and education, because mental health doesn't only affect grown-ups, it affects children. I
absolutely.
mean, we've not seen it in Dominica, but we've seen in developing countries where children have murdered their parents,
Mhm.
murdered their parents. We see mental illness even in the elderly. You may have somebody married for 50 something years, and one of the spouse died, and the other one is lonely in the house. The children live in England or in the US, and everybody, they have the biggest house, but this lady is suffering in silence. She's not eating, she can't sleep in the night. She's going through a mental disorder. And people will look at her big house, or look at some of the things that she has accomplished, and just assume that she might just be senile, or she might just be making herself a sad. So we really need to have that discussion, and that is why I personally have said, if I have to be a poster boy, because we need celebrities, we need people to actually come out and say, well, I was affected by this, and this is how it affected me, and this is how I became triumphant. Because if you don't, I mean, just look at people who go to AA. They you stand and you say, my name is so and so, and I am an
Mhm.
alcoholic. It's not that you are confessing that you will be an alcoholic, or you'll be abusing alcohol for the rest of your life, but just accepting
And
that,
surrendering that you need help, because
That's
I
it.
think we are all afraid of just surrendering, Carlton, and saying, I need help. Man, woman, child, elderly person, young person. We all need help because let's face it, we all have some sort of, mental anxiety, whether it's overthinking, whether it is doubting ourselves. So at some point, you're going to be impacted by some mental condition that you may not have complete control over. So I think it's so important to just say, I surrender. And who can I talk to? Maybe I don't need counseling. Maybe it's not as severe as clinical depression, but where can I seek comfort? Where can I seek a soft place to fall so that I can just lay my burdens down and have a conversation, a healing conversation. So I think it is so important what you're doing, and I really want to commend you because as we talked about before, I listen to Health Vibes, your radio program,
Yeah.
every week. And I
Thank
think
you.
it is so important that you stay on the topic. You always come back to mental health. As a matter of fact, the program yesterday was quite informative
Thank
and
you.
it was on mental health. So I want to commend you for the work that you're doing and for putting yourself out there because as you know, I mentioned to you, I myself, I suffer with anxiety. And I also think it's important to have a conversation about those of us who look like we have it together,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So we saw that in the case of Miss USA, who unfortunately leaped off the 29th floor of a building, and she looks like she had it all together.
Together. Hmm.
Many of us are dealing with things that the public does not see, does not know about. And I think many times people aspire, they want to be Carlton because Carlton looks like he has it all together, but
Yes,
they
I like
don't know
that.
what Carlton is dealing with.
True, true, true.
So I think it speaks on so many levels in terms of just taking care of who you are. And I also think, Carlton, we have to have a conversation of the impact of COVID.
Hmm.
Because as you know, this time of the year marks 2 years already since we've been dealing with COVID. So I want you to kind of tell us what you're seeing on the ground in terms of the uncertainty, the job loss, and everything else everyone is dealing with, and how that has impacted people's mental health. But before we do, we must acknowledge our Facebook Live audience who is listening very attentively. We have dashingly Felician. Nice to see you. Alexander, I'm not going to try to pronounce your first name, but thank you for being here. My sister, Sabria Senhouse, is here. Nice to see you, Bria. Lydia, my mom, Medina Senhouse. Rosemary Blah is here. Jennifer Christmas James. Caesarina says, our aging parents who have no interactions with family on a daily basis are becoming a problem. Too often they think they are of no use. Wow, Caesarine, such a powerful comment. Thank you for that.
Hmm.
Jennifer Christmas also says, wow, finally seeing the person I always called on his program in the morning. LOL. Good night, everyone. Houston is watching. Carlton, I think that's the first time Jennifer is actually seeing what you look
Ah,
like.
thank
That's what
you.
she's commenting about. Clyde Gregoire said, because it's an issue of trust. Basi Tuse, my friend, is watching. Great to see you. TDN is here. Alec Challenger, Novelist Blanc, Leslie. Oh my God, Carlton, we have a full house. Melvin, Claire, Suze, Francis is here. Betty Brazil, Jen Merrifield, Roslyn. So we have quite a full house. Corin is here. Ja Merrifield, Gina Cassell. So we have Rosalind Rebess. So we have a full house, Carlton, and we want to thank them for being here and we want to remind them to share their life. So let's talk about COVID, Carlton, because I can only imagine what that has done to many people in this uncertain time, this time of job loss. So kind of just tell us, as a pharmacist, with your experience all over the island, what are you seeing on the ground?
Man, it's difficult. It is difficult. I mean, just think of children not being in the classroom for quite some time. Some of them have really struggled, particularly remedial pupils and students, students with economic challenges, you know, students who may have been subjected to physical and emotional and sexual abuse.
Yes.
That is also because parents have to go to work and the children are left alone and unsupervised in some cases, and you know what can transpire. But even more so too, we did see some businesses had to close their doors, particularly the service industry was severely affected. The hotels, the restaurants owners, people into saloons and so forth. We saw the unemployment numbers have risen, and even for me, being head in the sales department at Jolly's and going out, you hear the cries of the merchants, and you hear the challenges they themselves have had to cut. They have had to make cuts. Some places that would have had maybe running on shifts, they would have had two shifts, had to cut down to one shift, have had to retrench. And so we've seen this really affected people. Yesterday, I had Dr. Nadia Wallis on as a guest, and she
Mhm.
was saying that in her practice as a psychiatrist, she has seen a spike in the number of people who have come to her office, who have come to the APU units, seeking help because they're overwhelmed. And we're happy when people actually go to get professional help. But what about those that have not even, maybe even recognized that they do have a major a challenge mentally, and have not seek that help, and are suffering in silence. And so we have to get these people as well. And I mean, it is tough. Now you have a war that is now starting off, and we know that again it's going to further escalate the inflation that we're already seeing. Just this evening, I heard about oil prices already changing, and gas prices, and so forth. So we know that we in the Caribbean, we're not immune, and we will be affected. And it is difficult. It is
Yeah,
difficult.
yeah,
It is
and you know
difficult.
the real concern is just how are people coping, right? Because when you're non-diagnosed and you don't feel like you can seek the help, then we have to talk about unhealthy coping
Substance.
methods. So
Yeah.
overeating, I go to the stores in the middle of the week and I see these extreme long lines, and I'm like, it's not even Christmas. Why are these lines so long? And I've come to realize it's because people are looking for ways to just self-soothe.
Mm.
So whether it's shopping, overeating, drugs, sexual behavior, but the ones that truly concern me is the child abuse, the abuse that is going on in the home. So I think that is where the concern is. But I also think, Carlton, we have to look at healthy coping methods, right? So what can we do during this time of uncertainty, during this time where it seems like every time we turn around, there's another crisis, right? We live
Mhm.
in a very chaotic world. And I just think, the not knowing what's going to happen next for someone with anxiety like me is truly a trigger. So let's talk about healthy coping methods. And I know one of them for you is running, because you're a runner like I am. Right.
Yeah.
So why did you begin running? But before we do, let's just take some comments. I want to make sure we're taking the comments. So Glenda Shillingford, one of my biggest fans, says Jolly's Pharmacy has a gem. I
Thank you.
agree. Idis Bruni is here. Diane Dean is here. Sabria says, I don't even think most of us understand yet the real effects that COVID has on us. Absolutely. And to add to that, I would say the real effects COVID will have on us long term,
True.
because we may get the vaccine and we may learn to live with COVID, but what about the mental health issues?
Mm.
How are we addressing that crisis, right? So we have the crisis of COVID, which now we have the vaccines and the boosters for. But what about the crisis of
True.
the mental health disorders that are going to emerge from that? And no one is talking about it. So I think it is so important that we're having this conversation, Carlton. And I hope it becomes an ongoing conversation, because I think It is much needed. Rosalind, I have to take the comments, Carlton. You know, my fans know me for taking their comments, so I have
Yeah,
to stick to protocol. Rosalind Robert says, very interesting program, Dr. Matthew. Keep it up. Thank you. And Bassi says, elder abuse is also very concerning. So,
that's true.
so much
That's true.
to
I,
talk
I,
about,
you've
Carlton.
and you've raised some very good points, but not just only the psychological ramifications or effects of COVID-19, but we also expect a spike in the CNCDs, because what has happened is that we know that our health system has been overpowered and over burdened with COVID-19 cases and so forth. And most of these resources have been placed with managing COVID-19.
Mhm.
And a lot of the people who suffer with the chronic non-communicable diseases, their situation have to be sort of put on the back burner, or would have to be delayed. And so we recognizing that these people, they may end up having major complications, which is another major, challenge to ministries of health, because it means that the budget for health and wellness is going to increase every year. We see in the budget is getting more and more as it relates to managing diseases and conditions in the Caribbean. We also see, I mean, just look at St. Lucia. I don't know if you pay attention, but St. Lucia recorded their worst murder rates in history last year.
Wow.
And it is attributed to the COVID-19 frustration and all your psychologists and all the different things that it brings with it, poverty brings with it. And you know that you will see the increase in crime, and people cannot resolve issues and so forth because people are very hyper. But
Mhm.
what we see in similar, I mean, we've not had, I mean, we've had about what, three murders or so for the year so far. But so too we see in the increase in the abuse of drugs. I mean, almost every young person these days is casually just indulge in some type of substance abuse, and
Wow.
it might be one of the ways that they're coping.
Mhm.
There are no jobs. You walk around, and almost every community has a block, and the young men are just sitting there, smoking weed or drinking, alcohol and that type of thing. And so we that already is another crisis that is
Crisis.
festering.
Mhm.
That is festering. So
Mhm.
it's a lot of variables that are involved in what we're seeing, and we just pray to God that we will have the mechanisms to remedy some of
Mhm.
these social ills that we
Mhm.
may be faced in the very near future.
Yeah, so let's get to the healthy coping options we were talking about. So why did you take up running?
Well, I took up running about a year plus ago because I had done my medical, my yearly medical, and I found out I was like really stressed out that day because I got my results, and I was just totally shocked when I opened it and I saw that my results were showing that I had a pre-diabetic reading, and then my cholesterol was borderline high, and I
Mm.
freaked out. I really freaked out because I was
Wake
never
up
a big
call.
person. Yeah, the most I ever weighed in my life was 174 pounds, and I'm like, where is this coming from? So immediately I said, okay, I know that I don't really, I don't do drugs. I don't abuse alcohol or anything. My issue is that I'm too sedimentary. I need to start doing some sort of exercise. And I remembered starting to run at the Pottersville Savannah. And I remember the first 3 days of running was very difficult. I couldn't run
Yes.
without my mouth open. I couldn't run without a bottle of water in my hand. It was just something else. And now I am running, my minimum run is 5K. I'm
Mm.
running,
Good for
12K.
you.
I'm running 9K runs,
Good for you. Mm.
and I saw within 3 months after running consistently, all my numbers came back normal. And
Mhm.
then when I saw that, I said, I'm not turning back. I am
Mhm.
going to continue my run, come what may. And now that is my spot.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been running about 18 years now. So for
Wow.
me, my year, everybody's year starts January 1st. My year starts on February 25th, tomorrow, my birthday. So I
Yes.
always run on my birthday because I think what happens is we have an issue with being consistent, Carlton.
Yes.
We know what we have to do. We know it is good for us, both physically and mentally, but we just are not consistent. And a lot of times people ask me, why is my programming called Push Past 10? It's because I wrote a book on the topic of being consistent. And the idea, Carlton, and you tell me if that is true for you. If you focus on just getting past those first 10 minutes, what happens? Your momentum picks up.
That's true.
Right. So it's about, and it happens to apply to everything.
Yeah.
So
For
that's how
real.
I wrote my dissertation. I was never in the mood, but I kept telling myself, just think of writing for 10 minutes,
Yes.
right? Just concentrate. Just, I'm just going to do this for 10 minutes. And what happens is you gain momentum. So for anyone who's on the live with us today, I want them to think about, what do you need to do to be consistent, to maintain your health, both physically and mentally. And I want you to think in terms of just those first 10 minutes. Just say, you know what, today I'm going to do 10 minutes of walking, 10 minutes of swimming, 10 minutes of maybe writing, journaling, which is excellent for mental health,
True.
right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then see what happens. I want people to email me at pushpassin@gmail.com and tell me if I'm lying.
Yeah. But
But
I
also,
think
Carlton, the importance of being prepared. Because
yes.
tell us how you make sure that you're prepared, that you get that run in. Because I listen to you all the time. I know everything, Carlton.
I think for me though, it all begins with the mindset.
Yes.
Changing your mentality, beginning to see yourself as a vehicle of change,
Mm,
and that you can catalyze change by being a factor of change yourself.
yes.
And so, for me, I try to be in the affirmative. I try to be
Yes.
positive. I try to think positive. I try to, embody positivism. And I write, just like you said, I write a lot. I like to sit and write or meditate. And a lot of times we don't spend time. We think meditating is having that cell phone in our hand and WhatsApping somebody or so. That is not it. Just sitting down quietly and detoxifying yourself,
Yes.
detoxifying your mind. Um, just clearing your mind and seeing what are my goals and what objectives do I have to feed that goal with. So you let us just say, well, okay, I want to lose weight. I
Mhm.
want to lose weight. Okay, that's a goal. But what strategy are you going to put in place to lose the weight?
And how are you going
So
to be
the
consistent?
That's it. So you will say, well, okay, I'm going to make some changes in my diet. I like rice, but I'm going to tell myself I'm going to have rice once a week. I'm going to have rice once a week. And if I cook rice, I'm going to have beans or peas and rice. So I'm going to have more beans and less rice. So you're
Amen.
getting more protein and more fiber, right? So it's your mindset. You also want to be decisive. You want to be assertive and you want to be decisive. I remembered my first time I ran. I ran to Salisbury. I ran to
Woo!
Salisbury,
From
and then
Roseau.
when I ran to Salisbury, I said, "But okay, my next run, I'm going to run to Batterley, and then my next run, I'm going to reach to Cooley Street." And that's
Mm,
how I did it. So I just every time I run, I
mhm.
just decide to kind of push it a little more, push it a little more, and that's where I am now. So
Yeah, and the thing is, people have to remember that our cravings are stronger than who we are. So if you
that's
don't
true.
keep the junk food in your house, will you eat the junk food? It's
That's
not
it.
in your house. You're not gonna eat it. When you have that weak moment, you'll probably reach for a Jello, which is what I do,
That's it. Well, one
because
of the things
there are
too.
no cookies in my house.
That's it. But I'm happy that you brought that point because with that point you're basically saying, and as a psychologist yourself, We have to really find ways to sort of eliminate the
Yes.
emotions. We really we so everything for us is I feel like, boy, I feel like
Yes.
eating this. I feel like, but sometimes you have to tell yourself, no, it's not good for me. I may feel like it, but I'm
Mhm.
going to have a banana instead. And after
Right.
you've eaten the banana, you say, yes, I've
Mhm.
eaten a real healthy fruit, filled with
Mhm.
potassium, filled
Mhm.
with fiber, filled with all of the key, nutrients and vitamins that my body requires, versus having that unhealthy food that may, develop a major complication or condition
Mhm.
in my body. So,
Right.
try to really be objective
Mhm.
and less emotional. And it's
Mhm.
something that I personally have had to do over the past maybe 5 years,
Mhm.
really trying my best to be more objective and less emotional, because
Well,
emotion.
Carlton, I'm so happy you're being so candid with our audience this evening. I truly appreciate it, and they're learning so much for you. So, for everyone who are joining us this evening, and we have quite an audience this evening, Ivor John Baptist, I see you. Thank you for being here. Marva Charles, Fran, Susan Henderson, I see you. Alexi, I see you. Good evening. Thank you for being here. We have quite an audience with us, Carlton. So I think what we can conclude is that in terms of if you're trying to make an important life change, being consistent, being prepared, because I know, for example,
True.
because I'm a top fan of Carlton, I know, for example, one of the things that you do is you go running after work. You don't go home.
That's it.
So that is a
Well,
key point. And
that's
I do
true.
the same thing in the morning when I take my daughter to school. I go straight to running or I go to the gym. Because guess what? We keep telling ourselves, oh, I'll do it later. Later never comes, right?
It's
So
true.
you have to be prepared every day to be successful, to be consistent. You have to make sure you arrange your life, right? So you set up your exercise and then you arrange your life around it, not the other way around.
That's
Because
true.
most people think, oh, I will exercise when I get the time. No.
It should
Whatever
not be an
you're
option.
trying to change, that
That's
should
true.
be your focus, and
That's
then
it.
everything else should come around it. Your thoughts?
I mean, you've said it, you encapsulated it so well, because this is exactly what I have done. Because it is just some, you just have to set up your mind and tell yourself this is what you have to do, and it's goal attaining, irrespective of what you want to do in life. You want to build a house, you have to make
Mhm,
sacrifices. Yeah, and the same thing is applicable to almost every facet of our life.
mhm,
It cannot be a flip-flopping mechanism. It has
mhm.
to be consistent. It has to be goal oriented. It has to be attaining. It has to be measurable. It has to be something that you can certainly. It has to be smart. It
Right.
has to be smart. So
Mhm,
it is something that you know that you can accomplish. And I've said to people sometimes, okay, you may not be able to do an entire week, but even if you tell yourself, you know what, I'm going to spare 3 days a week, each session 45 minutes, I'm going to do, and you go ahead and you do that, and you just become it sort of help you with disciplining
mhm.
and yourself, and it helps you with um, keeping to deadlines too, and achieving your goals. It helps you these days.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely, Carlton. So as our time is winding down, and again, I want to thank you for sparing an hour to spend this time with us. I think Facebook will agree with me when I say we learned so much for you, and I hope this is not the last time you will come back and have a conversation with us because we have so much to unpack, right? I
True.
it just, as you're talking, ideas are coming to me, and I'm thinking, for example, the importance of maintaining our mental health by simply reducing the noise in our life, the
True.
cell
I
phones
like
going
that.
off, the TV, the radio.
Yes. Yes.
So, just speak quickly on that because, we have so much to talk about.
For years, when I lived alone, I never had a television in my bedroom. I
Mhm,
never believed in television or radios or any type of medium like this in my bedroom. Well, when you get married, you have to compromise a bit. So I've had to make some modifications, some changes there. But what you're saying there makes a lot of sense.
mhm,
how do you clear your mind and prepare yourself for bed? And a lot of times people just go to lie on a bed and expect sleep to come. But
Mm-hmm.
you have to prepare yourself for sleep. You have to prepare yourself for sleep. You have to clear your mind. You have to meditate. That's why we pray. And most times when we pray because it's a form of relaxation, it's a form of connection, it's a form of of reassurance that the person, the spiritual being that you believe that knows all and does all and can help you with all things is there. And so that faith develops. So the very same thing is applicable to even resting. Resting is another area that many of us, our brain goes and goes and goes, and we get up in the morning. Our bodies seem to have rested, but our mind just never rested. We don't know how to relax. We don't know how to meditate. We don't know how to calm ourselves because there is so much bombarding us daily that is very difficult for us to extract or to decompress the things that are bothering us. But as we learn um, about ourselves, as we learn about ourselves, we will find um, the mechanisms. We'll find the how should I say? You will find the answers that
Mm-hmm.
you may need to sort of help you to calm down. A lot of people, and you said about anxiety, and trust
Mm-hmm.
me, it is a major problem now where people minds are just racing. They're
Oh
just
yeah.
racing
Oh
and they
yeah.
just can't sleep. A lot of people suffer insomnia. You
Mm-hmm.
just cannot sleep at all for hours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So I want to thank you again for being here. We got to unpack a lot, and there's so much more conversation. But before I go, I have to ask you one more question because you sent me some information, and I see that you've won so many awards, and I want to congratulate you for your service
Thank
to
you.
humanity and your success. But just kind of tell us, is there one particular award that is more special to you, or you just are grateful for the awards that you've received over the lifespan of your career?
I think for me, it was the Caribbean, receiving the Caribbean Pharmacist of Distinction, the Caribbean Community Pharmacist of Distinction Award in 2019. That was a very big award for me. It really resonated the fact that my role is really all about people and empowering
Mhm.
people. The information that I have is not merely just for me to keep in my head, but for me to share and to ensure that all of us find ways to optimize our general health and wellness. I was very happy to had gotten the opportunity to be invited by President Clinton and Mrs. Clinton at the summit in 2019 as well, to speak on sustainable health for all. That was actually my biggest stage. It is one that I will never forget. But it was another opportunity that I really was thankful for. Just to share and just to really share my passion for health and wellness, and for really preventative health. People doing what they have to do, being passionate about themselves, being passionate about taking care of themselves. Some of these diseases, they will still come, they may come, but at least you can delay the early onset of them. And sometimes we have to do everything in our power to protect ourselves and to ensure that at least all our retired money or our funds are not spent on medications and diagnostic procedures and that type of thing. So my whole quest is to really motivate people, encourage people to live the best version of themselves by first recognizing that their health is indeed their greatest resource and they must preserve it.
Yes, thank you, Carlton. This was fantastic. And again, if you joined us late, we were having a very engaging conversation with the pharmacist, the top pharmacist of Jolly's Pharmacy, Mr. Carlton Lando. And, you know, he told us all about his journey to becoming the voice and now the face of health and wellness in Dominica, and his passion for mental health, especially as it relates to the mental health of our men in Dominica. And I want to thank everyone who joined us on the Facebook Live. Thank you, everyone who sent me the birthday greetings. You all know what I'll be doing tomorrow, running and resting.
I know.
And I want to thank everyone who made a contribution to the conversation. And I want to thank everyone who will share this Facebook Live as we continue to promote and celebrate who we are as Dominicans, our businesses, our products, our cultures. We do it all. And again, at the heart of what we do is our inspirational guests, such as Carlton. So I'm sure that you will take a lot from what Carlton says. So, Carlton, again, thank you for being here. Again, my
Thank you
name is
so
Simone
much.
Matthew, and we will do this again sometime soon, hopefully, Carlton. So we look forward to having you come back and be part of our conversation one more time. So have a
Definitely.
good
It
evening,
was my
everyone.
pleasure.
Carlton, final words.
Well, again, people, always remember that there is nothing greater than mental health. There is no health without
Yes,
mental health.
absolutely, absolutely. So thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful evening. Take care.
Bye bye.
Mhm.
Sinzaya, you forgot.